Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to share something that is deeply personal, but in sharing this I think it will be very beneficial to others and will hopefully help someone who is going through the same thing. So, I know a lot of persons that you may have heard about different diseases that affect women and fertility. I know most persons have heard about endometriosis and other diseases such as that, but one that I know a lot of others haven't heard about that affects fertility, but not only fertility but different physical aspects of the body and other physical development. This particular disease that I am going to talk about is called Turner syndrome. So, Turner syndrome is a condition that only affects females. It's where one of the X chromosome is either missing or is deformed. So, Turner syndrome can cause different medical issues such as heart defect, hearing loss, diabetes, osteoporosis, and if not treated, there's a lot of health issues that persons can succumb to. Turner syndrome affects every female differently. It's very rare, so not a lot of doctors have seen persons who are affected by Turner syndrome. Turner syndrome is mainly diagnosed at birth or before birth. No. The main doctors that specialize in Turner syndrome are endocrinologists. Endocrinologists are the doctors that who specialize in hormones and glands, and they treat Turner syndrome, and they also treat diseases such as diabetes. So Turner syndrome, there are different main characteristics that doctors look for in diagnosing Turner syndrome. Some characteristics of Turner syndrome are short stature, um, delayed delayed puberty, um, web neck, um, uh, some signs of Turner syndrome are web neck, low set hairs, broad chest, high or narrow roof of the mouth, fingernails and toenails that are narrowed or upwards, low hairline, short fingers and toes, receding or lower jaws, arms that are turned outwards at the elbow, and other abnormalities according to different cardiac defects, abnormal kidneys, it's not everyone who has Turner syndrome has all those signs. There are two types of um, Turner syndrome. There's Masonic Turner syndrome. Yes, there are two types of Turner syndrome. There's Masonic Turner syndrome and monosomic Turner syndrome, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Masonic Turner syndrome is where the cells are developed in early stages of fetal development, and this results in some cells in the body having complete copies of the X chromosome, and other cells only has one copy of the X chromosome. In monosomy Turner syndrome, there is a complete absence of an X chromosome. So person doesn't have any chromosome. And that is generally caused because of an error in the father's sperm or in the mother's egg, which causes the body to have only one X chromosome. So for me personally, my signs of Turner syndrome are: I have a low hairline, I have a webbed neck, my breasts are turned outwards at the elbow, and I am short. I only go to between kind of roughly between 4'11" and 5 feet tall. Is kind of iffy, but yeah, I wrote enough to say I'm 5 feet. Yeah. 5 feet tall. So I have no other physical abnormalities apart from when I was much younger, I did not have development as it relates to puberty. I did not have a menstrual cycle. I didn't develop breasts until I started hormone replacement therapy, which I'll talk about more later. So with growing up with Turner syndrome, it feels like your body's in complete menopause. I had hot flashes, bad insomnia. I would be up 2, 3, 4 times during the night. I had a very hard time sleeping and staying asleep until hormone replacement therapy. I was not diagnosed with Turner syndrome at birth. Doctors were not sure what was wrong at all. When they first suspected that I had Turner syndrome was because I had developed septic arthritis in my left knee when I was about 10 years old, and I was admitted in a hospital when at that time I lived in Kingston, Jamaica, and I was admitted at the Bustamante Children's Hospital. And during my time there, based on questions that the doctors asked, and they saw that I was not showing signs of puberty based on my age, and because of that I was asked to do a ultrasound to see so that they could see my ovaries and all of that. And as a result of doing that, they found out that they did not see any ovaries in that initial ultrasound that they did. After that, I was then referred to another doctor at the university hospital. After being there for a couple, I think couple times, I was to do a blood test, but I was not able to do the blood test at the time, so I went without um, any pharma treatment or seeing the doctor again for many years after. And I didn't have a name to what was going on, even though they suspected what was going on. How I found out and started my research on Turner syndrome was the year before I think it was the year before I was supposed to leave Jamaica. I was I saw the name on a paper where I was going to the doctors before, and I looked up Turner syndrome, and it was very shocking at first after reading, because of the things that it said that could go wrong, and I felt that strongly that that was what was going on, because I always felt that something was wrong. I wasn't sure what was going on with my body. I always felt out of place. I always felt like I was not able to relate to anybody that was going through different changes as it relates to puberty, and it kind of felt uncomfortable, especially through my teenage years. Yeah, I wasn't able to relate to anyone's experience as it relates to having periods or menstrual, anything as it relates to any puberty changes, because I was not experiencing any of that at all. So I when I migrated to United States, when I made sure that the first thing I did when I had my health insurance was to see my primary care doctor and talk to that doctor about what was going on and what I was experiencing. And I spoke to that doctor, and that doctor had referred me to see a OBGYN. With that initial visit to the OBGYN, the doctor asked questions, and I wasn't able to do the examination, because he didn't felt that he didn't want me to go through a uncomfortable examination based on how he knows persons who has Turner syndrome, and me having a high potential that was what I had, what it would be for me, what that experience would be like for me. So I then went to a endocrinologist, and when I went to that endocrinologist, I initially did some blood tests where they did a genetic testing, and other referred me to other doctors like a cardiologist, ENT, and I had to do a batteries of tests. I had to do a bone density scan and a lot of tests, because I was new here and they did not have any health history of me apart from what I have told them and the surgeries which I have done before coming here. So I did that. I did all those tests, did the bone density scan. I was then referred to another OBGYN, which I started going to. I was formerly diagnosed with Turner syndrome by my endocrinologist based on the result of the genetic test which they did, and I was fully diagnosed and knew know what was going on. I had a name for what I was experiencing all these years. I went 22 years of not knowing what was going on, experiencing menopause when I know for a fact that was not something normal or what I was supposed to be feeling. When the doctor came in and told me that I had Turner syndrome, it was a bittersweet moment because I know now that it's no definitely a possibility that high possibility that I would not be a mother, and that was something very hard to come to grips with. And the good part about it is that yes, I know now exactly what was going on, and now I can take steps in order to get better in a sense. Infertility is a major part of what persons with Turner syndrome have to deal with, because most of us have we don't have ovaries, or we have to do surgery to remove the underdeveloped ovaries that we may have. Some persons, they have heart issues and other issues which makes it impossible for them to put their body through fertility treatment to even want to think of the possibility of having a child. And that is very hard. And I know a lot of women, it is very hard to talk about fertility issues that you may have, but I want to share my stories to get persons more comfortable talking about it. And if on any person who is experiencing what I was experiencing and don't know what they're going through now, they have a name to what they're going through, and have somebody that they can reach out to that can share the experience that they're going through and can help them through the process of feeling better. So that is one goal in sharing this story with everyone. It's not one of the easiest things to do. It took me a while to get the courage to share this, because not a lot of person know this. It's just like some of the closest people to me. When I fully found out, I let them know what was going on, and it's not that easy to deal with because at my age, I get asked all the time, when are you going to have a baby? When is going to be your time? And like persons, like most of my friends and family, most of my friends, they have kids, they're married now and all of that. So it's, everyone expects that's the next step in in our life and all of that, which is not something that I can for sure say is going to happen for me. And that's very hard because I get asked all the time, and then like I have to give you know a answer to a question like that, which I don't always feel like I'm most comfortable answering, but I just give an answer just to end the conversation because I don't want to prolong the conversation. I'm not very comfortable like get involved in conversations when it comes on to like having kids or like having kids issue, because it's not easy. Have hearing news of like a friend saying, "Oh, I'm expecting a baby." It's kind of bittersweet. I'm very much, happy for the person, but then, in the back of my mind, how I personally feel and I know what I'm going for, it's kind of hard to, because it's something that I want as well, and I know that there are others who are going through the same thing and are going through it silently, doing this battle on their own. And you know I want to let people know that it's okay. It's okay to talk about it. It makes the situation a little bit more easier to deal with, especially when you have persons who can relate exactly to what you're going through. One step that I took in that was joining a Turner syndrome awareness group, um, after fully finding out when I moved here. I joined a group on Facebook, and in doing that, I have met many women who are going through what I'm going through and are at different different stage, different age range, and can give me insight as to the type of things I should expect, giving me insight and questions that I should bring up, when going to different doctor visits and all of that. And just having somebody to talk to that really knows what you're going through, that really, really does help. It has helped me because I've gained friends through that, and I'm very much appreciative of these women, and I'm very sure that everyone is very much appreciative of the help and the advice they have gained through being a part of these groups, because it is so rare. you know Even doctors, there are a lot of doctors who will go through their whole medical career and not come across a case with sort of someone who has Turner syndrome. So it's not easy, and like, you know, I have persons who I have met, their doctors are not sure what the full length of their treatment that they should get, because it's so, everyone is different. You have persons where they develop diabetes, they have to monitor their diabetes along with going through the whole process of being on hormone replacement therapy, having to decide when you're a young age, having to decide whether to go on growth hormones, which I did not, because at the time when I found out, when I initially did all the testing and was diagnosed fully by my doctor, I was at the age where it wouldn't have made sense to do that. And I am very much comfortable with my height. My height has not really been a big issue for me, but it's I am shorter than the most persons, but it doesn't really bother me. I've become very much comfortable with my height and everything else that has been going on with me, and all the changes that goes along with, the hormone replacement therapy. So with doing that, so because we have fertility issues, I opted to see a fertility doctor and hopefully do fertility treatment, because being a mother is something that I would want, but in doing so I have to make sure that it is safe for me to do so. So in doing that, I have to make sure that my heart and my body is ready for that. So I have to, in doing so, I've had to do a heart MRI. I have also had to do a echocardiogram of my heart, and also I'm in the process of going to do a CT scan of my heart so that I can be cleared by my cardiologist before I can even start thinking about doing the fertility treatment. And a part of my treatment for most persons with Turner syndrome is hormone replacement therapy. Hormone replacement therapy is basically taking birth control, but it has the opposite. It has an opposite effect for persons who have Turner syndrome. So my regimen includes taking estradiol patch, which is a patch that I wear for 7 days. I change it every 7 days. And also for the first 12 days of each month, I take progesterone, which I take once at night before bed for the 12 days. And with taking those, I'm able to have a regular menstrual cycle. But with those, they do have side effects, because my body is not used to the added hormones as well, like my mood swings and everything that comes with it. It takes a little bit getting used to. I have very bad mood swing, and I have to try to control my emotions and certain, because with on those meds you can go into depression, and a lot of persons with Turner syndrome will still suffer from depression and anxiety because of the added stress and all the things that we have to deal with. And which is why it's good to have people we relate to, and if you need to, like, seek counseling, because it does help. It also, with doing so based on age, you're able to go through the normal process of puberty. You get normal breast development and all those stuff. That it helps. The hormone replacement therapy helps with that. I'm no more comfortable talking about it, being more comfortable and more confident in myself. And I was very much self-conscious growing up, because I wasn't, how I felt that I looked physically, because of me not developed or looking fully like a woman at the age I was. And it was very hard But now with all the changes, I become better at dealing with everything, and I have people who I can go to and talk to, so it's better. And I like the fact that I am now more aware of what is going on, and I am taking extra precautions, and I'm taking steps to keep myself as healthy as I can, and I keep up with doctor visits. I know, which is very important. And I know that it I know that it's hard to deal with, so I'm trying to let persons know that it can it's you can have a normal life. You can do everything that you have set out yourself to do. There's no limitations as it comes to Turner syndrome. You can function 100% as how you would want to once you have the proper care and proper doctors behind you, because it not only affects us physically, it affects us emotionally, and it affects us intellectually, because most persons with Turner syndrome have a issue when it comes on to numbers as it relates to like maths, and it's kind of harder for us to master that. And I realized that that was one issue that I actually had as well, but not as how other persons do, because I think I grasp maths quite well, but remembering formulas and stuff like that is kind of been the harder part of that for me. One of the reasons why I was very hesitant in trying to share my story, I took a while to share, is because I wasn't sure how I would be able to answer the questions and that persons may have, especially other family members, because it's only like a handful of family members that know of this that I'm going through. And it's I know that when seeing this video they'll have questions, and hopefully through these other persons it helps, and I'll be here to answer any questions anyone may have about Turner syndrome. And I hope to help someone know that it's something that can be dealt with. Turner syndrome doesn't only affect the person who has the disease, it also affects their families too, because they don't know what to say. They always try to find what's the right thing to say, and sometimes it's not always the right thing to say. You always, as family, you have good intentions, but and you always say yes, we get it, we understand, and we always say, oh yes, you know, you can do this, you can do that, and you know, probably you change or whatever. But we know in saying all those stuff, it comes from a good place, and yeah, you mean well, but unless you are dealing with it personally, you don't actually know what the person is going through on a mental level. It does affect a person's mental state. It's like you feel like you had no choice, a choice that you would want to make was taken from you without you even being able to make that decision as to whether, you know, you would want to be a mother or not. You know, you can, relationships are also affected. Like when you get to the point where you want to start a relationship, you know, we have to get to a point where we have to decide when is the right time to share this with the person that we are in a relationship with. And sometimes they may feel that, oh yes, they can go through this with you, they're okay, and you know, we'll go through this together. But when you actually start going through the ups and downs with the person, not everyone can deal with it and is able to stick around. So we have issues with building relationship, wanting to actually go into, we're scared to go into a relationship because we don't know, you know, if this person is going to stand by, how this person is going to react to this. And I know a lot of persons who have this issue. You know, you can have successful relationships, successful marriages. I know a couple persons who do, but it was not easy. Initial dating and all of that, it took time to get used to a person and feeling comfortable enough to be vulnerable enough to share this part of what's going on with the person that you're with. It takes a lot, because you don't want to feel like you're burdening the person that you're with. You know, you don't want to be with somebody and feel like you're robbing them of something that they could have with someone else. You know, you don't want to feel like, oh, you know, you could be with someone else and have a child, someone who's able to give you what you want as well. And then when you know you're not able to do that, you know, you don't want to be in a place where you resent that person. So things like that are things that we go through and have to think about on a daily basis. Like, how are we going to explain this to someone else and all of that. And even when you do get fertility treatment and it is successful, you have to in turn having to decide what you're going to tell your child. How they are here, because they might feel that there's a difference, and why is this, why is there a difference? So that's another thing too that we have to think about. And when you're much younger and you don't know what is going on, and being so self-conscious, and people judging you of like how you look, and you feel outcast and you feel out of place. especially in the younger age. The initial stage, of growing up is one of the hardest parts to deal with, because that's the stage where you're not as aware of going on. You're not fully comfortable with yourself. You're easily self-conscious. You're easily judged by your peers, and that's not easy to deal with. I had to deal with a lot of that growing up, feeling out of place, feeling uncomfortable around people, feeling uncomfortable to have certain conversations. I wasn't, you know, certain conversations I didn't have, like, because you don't know what are you going to tell somebody who is not going, or you explain to somebody who's not going through the same thing. You can't relate to that. What are you going to say? There's nothing that you can say really to make that person feel better, feel comfortable about the situation. So I wanted to take the initiative to put this out there, because I know a lot of my butterfly sisters are very shy, and a lot of us are not able to share their story or feel comfortable getting in front of a camera or putting themselves out there enough to share this with others. And I want to help others and let others know that it's okay to share their story, feel comfortable to share, and it will help someone in the long run, and it will help family members kind of understand what is going through the person, their family members' mind as it relates to what they're going through, and they'll be able to kind of find alternatives in trying to help them feel better, because we know how families are. We know they try to say that you think you're saying the right thing, you try to want to do the right thing, but we know you all have good intentions. Sometimes what you say, it's not always the right thing. And for me personally, when asked certain questions and I'm feeling when I'm not comfortable, I just give the answer that I feel like would be less how can I put it, would make it less likely for them to continue to ask more questions. I would just say yeah, especially being asked when am I gonna have a child. My main response to anyone that asks me that is like, when the time is right. Even though I fully know what is going on, and I know that it may not be a possibility, but they're expecting that, but that's not always the case. It takes a lot to be going through something like this. And I know a lot of others, they find alternatives to deal with the stress of this, because broken relationships, of the person not being able to stick around, not having a fulfilling relationships, having issues with different aspects of their life, because it affects everybody differently, having to like have limitations So, you know, our mental state isn't always the best, but it's for us to, once you have a strong support system, having a strong support system and people who relate to what you're going through does help. That's why I recommend anyone that is also going through the same thing and know that they're going to Turner syndrome and have yet to meet someone who going through the same thing. You know, I I recommend joining a group and reach out to someone that and ask questions, and if you're feeling down or whatever is going on, you'll always have somebody to talk to and have somebody to relate to, because you know when you do, it's always better, because you can even though you have your regular friends and family that you can talk to, they don't always give the best advice, because like they feel like what they're saying is the best thing, and it's not always the best. And because we know what we are fully going through and they don't fully understand, they say certain things that they feel like, oh, this is the right thing, but it's not. Like it and it takes when I first found out, i I shared the news with the closest people I had to me, and it wasn't the easiest thing to do. Talking about Turner syndrome has always been something that gets me very emotional, and I'm not the best person at dealing with being vulnerable, so I try to limit being vulnerable. I'm always the person that friends and family members, would think, just be strong. I always have to be the strong one for my friends, and be that person too, that's supportive person. But I have my time when I'm not. I'm not always the strongest, not at all. But having people that support me and love me makes all the difference. And I'm happy that I finally got the courage to decide to share this part of my life. It's definitely was not and still isn't the easiest thing to do, but I'm happy that I am doing this. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, have any questions, I'll be free to answer any questions that you may have. If you have questions, I'll be sure to do another video answering any other questions that I may not have answered in this video. And hopefully, I have helped someone in the end, just like I found persons in my support group who have helped me to deal with what I am going through, because without them I wouldn't be the strong person that I am today. And And I want to say thank you to those ladies, and I want to say big thank you to my friends and my family who have been so supportive and who are being very encouraging, and you know, just being my reason, you know, and we need that. And I'm very happy to have them in my life. So, okay. So, I hope I have shared enough, and any other questions, anything that I may not have touched on or may not have shared. If anyone has any questions, be sure to reach out to me, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys may have. So thanks for watching, and I hope anyone who's watching, they have learned something, and glad I've had the opportunity to share.